Resume recording. There we go. So it's only right that we have some amazing women on here. They're going to be talking about being able to persevere, just being able to go through life, because sometimes, as we all know, life is not easy. I like to say that sometimes life lifes us. And it's only right that we go ahead and get started. Like I said, I was waiting a few minutes because some people were heading over to our old site. But before I start, I got to give a shout out to our Women Empowerment apparel. I don't know if you can see it. I tried to, today's casual day at the office, so I tried to spruce it up by putting my collar shirt on. But it says, she builds, she owns, she invests, she is me and I am she. So it was only right that I wore some Women Empowerment casual apparel, but I put my little collar shirt on to make it a little bit dressy, because we got some fashionistas on here tonight with us. But last time we had Hope, like I said. So now let's see who we're going to have on here tonight talking about persevering. Well, first up, and I'm not sure if you all saw the flyer or not. Hopefully you did. Hopefully you follow us on social media and you saw it. But first up, we have Ms. Nefertari Nzinga. Did I say that right? Yes. All right.
Yes, ma'am.
We have Nefertari Nzinga. Now, when I say she's a powerhouse, I don't want to get too much into her story, because I know, well, any of the ladies' stories, because they're going to be sharing them at our upcoming Women That Win in Chicago, which is where they reside. But she is definitely a woman that knows what it means to persevere. If you follow her on social media, you can see that she is all about her business and she does with class and style. Next up, we have Miss Paris Nicholson, and she is another woman that can talk to you all about persevering. Like in order for you to be a speaker for Women That Win, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to add people to the room while I'm talking, you have to do this questionnaire. And it asks questions about just different things that you have went through. And when I was reading through the 3 women's stories that you're going to hear about, it was literally like, it blew my socks off. You never know what people are going through. And so as I tried to put speakers together, these women could have been on every Wednesday that we're talking about. These same 3 women could have been on here talking about hope, but I'm extremely excited to have them on here. And Paris is one that can come on here and talk about persevering. And I feel like, and a lot of women and men who are joining us, thank you, men, for following us through this whole thing and supporting us. But through Paris's story, I feel like she is one of those that you can listen to her story and be like, dang, that was me. Like, how many women or men on here tonight can say, you know what, I don't look like what I've went through and what I've overcome. And so reading through her story, I was like, okay, you never know. And not to say that, nobody has an easy life, but you would think that what she went through, same thing as Miss Nefertari, and I'm gonna get to Miss Shalonda Lee. It's just like, you would have never thought, because when Paris speaks, it's just so easy flowing. Does that make sense what I'm saying? So I'm so excited to have Paris come on here. Thank you. And then last but not least is Miss Shalonda Lee. Well, Shalonda Lee can tell you about a whole bunch of persevering, and she actually had a situation where she had to persevere today. So she was messaging me like, look, the Lord is trying to put some razzle dazzle on this whole thing that I'm about to speak on, because he is, allowing me to have to persevere through some things now. But Shalonda Lee is another one who can talk about persevering through different struggles in life, and having to also continue to persevere through different things that she deals with on a day-to-day basis. I'm not sure if you follow her or know her, but she does have an autistic son who she calls I don't want to say it wrong. I'll let you. I think it's like all amazing or something like that. But I'll let her come over here and talk more about that. But she also has a backstory of having to persevere. And when people wanted to count her out, she came back and was like, no, you're going to count me in and you're going to count me more. Okay. So she can come on here and share her story. All 3 of these women can tell you about things that have been that they have been faced with, that have made them want to question, should I continue? I'm pretty sure they can come on here and tell you that they have went through things where they're like, why me? And I can guarantee you that they can come on here and say, wow, like, because I persevered, I didn't realize I had this strength and nothing's going to stop me. So ladies, we're going to go ahead and take it away. But what I like to do is I like to start with the definition of the word that we're going to be talking about tonight. So perseverance is basically persistence in doing something despite the difficulty or delay in achieving success or whatever you have your mind to. So the reason why perseverance is so important is because I feel as women, we have to be able to persevere through anything. And I think a lot of times people think that in order for me to persevere, it means that something big has had to happen, something like traumatic. But I think that people will forget that there are small things that we have to persevere through as well, because there may be little stumbling blocks that we may come across. And some people could quit at the smallest trouble that they face. And so there's another definition, and it says that it's continued effort to do or achieve something despite opposition. So I think that that is something else that we can kind of talk about as well. So ladies, I'm going to hand it over to you. And I wanted to start with the first question, and we're going to start small and then we'll kind of like, gradually go up. But I want you to tell me in your own words, what perseverance means to you. And when you go through your definition, I want you to, and I know this is a silly question, but it's funny how sometimes you get silly questions. I want you to tell me that in your definition of perseverance, is this just something that has happened like once or twice? Or is this something that's just like ongoing? Because some people are just like, I've already made it through one thing, one opposition, one failure, one difficulty, like, and is that it? Or is this something that's just going to continually come? So I'll start with the first person I see on my screen. Ms. Nefertari, can you go ahead and unmute yourself?
Absolutely. I do want to go ahead and give it back up to you for just putting this platform together. It's so necessary. It's much needed. It's so many people, so many women, especially who can relate to, the things that we've been through, who can relate to some of the things that we're currently going through. So I definitely want to give it back up to you for just, putting that together.
Thank you.
But perseverance for me, I literally had to grow into what that word meant. Because at my first obstacle, I was like, what? Like, I don't know how to handle this, and it wasn't so much of me persevering through that first obstacle, but learning how to persevere through things that were going to come in the future. So basically like learning steps or learning blocks. By persevering, I feel like, people oftentimes feel like they're in a dark space or a dark place. But I heard this one song when I was going through my trials and tribulations. It was on a Sunday. And I heard this one song by Percy a Christian. He was a Christian, a gospel singer. And the name of the song was called Painful But Necessary. I listened to that song. It just kind of came on 102.7. I'm going out to McDonald's and get my kids some breakfast, and it kind of came on, and it made me realize, like, dang, sometimes pain is necessary. Like, God wants you to, like, how will you ever grow if you never know? You got to have stuff to grow through or grow to and grow through. So I guess I answered the question.
Yeah. So, and with that being said, is it just a one-time thing?
So no, that's life. Like perseverance, that's something that you're going to have to constantly get suited and booted to go through. Like that's never, you're going to always have to persevere through something. Like that's something that's never going to stop. And I thank God that he's given me these little obstacles, and I'm not going to say they're little because they weren't all little, but I thank God. I'm very thankful for those obstacles because it built me, it made me. Like I'm a strong little lady.
Yeah.
Because of what I've been through. So.
All right. Thank you. The next person I see on my screen is Shalonda. So I'm going to head it over to you, Shalonda. So what's your definition of perseverance? And is just like I asked Nefertari, is this something that's going to happen one time?
So perseverance is continuing forward despite all else, continuing forward. There's so many things in life. Wait a minute, pause. Let me fix this. First of all, thank you, Queen, Mrs. Shanae, for this opportunity. But today has been a day, and I got some stuff I need to get up off of me. But truly, truly thankful and honored for this opportunity. But perseverance is going forward despite all else. Okay. And it can be small things. It can be you get home, the kids didn't do their homework, the dishes not washed, everything is, but you still have to continue forward, right? It could be big things like your car done broke down, you got to get to and from work, you got to Uber and Lyft. That's continuing forward. What are you going to do? Yes, it's frustrating. Yes, it costs money, but you have to continue forward. Why? Because there's a greater goal, right? There's more that you have to accomplish. And is it a one-time thing? No, perseverance is a journey. That's what I want everyone to understand. Perseverance is a journey. And even though you may not have experienced something traumatic, such as a death, or something traumatic, such as a loss of a job or a loss of a business, or, situations with your kids, anything that has come against you in fulfilling your purpose, of your day, of your job, of the goals that you have to persist through those things. It is a continual journey, and just know that you can do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I got a follow-up question to that, but I'm going to hold it to after we do this one. So Paris, what's your definition? And I know Nefertari and Shalana said, nah, this is something that's going to keep coming. So what about you? What's your definition? Is this just a one-time thing?
Oh, no, it's not. But first, I want to give it back to our first lady, our COO, which is everything that she's doing from the next week. I'm so excited. My bag is packed. I live close. And I just want to give it back to you for even just putting this platform together. Because like Neff said, it is needed. It's just necessary. So perseverance, it means faith. Like whatever we going through, we have to make sure our faith is it. I know it can be tested, because that's what the enemy do. But our faith has to stay strong, because you have to understand that it is the enemy's job to keep us away from everything God has for us, right? So he's going to throw everything possible your way to keep you from being this amazing, like making, changing the world. So you got to have faith, and your faith has to stay. And I know it's hard sometimes. Life is happening. You like, God, is you forgot about me? Like, I'm not one of your toughest soldiers. If you thought I was, God, that's not me, because I've had those moments like, look here, God, I love you and I'm not questioning you, but what made you think that I was one of the tough ones here, right? So it's really having faith. And a song, like Neff said, because I am a worshiper. Anybody who knows, I am going to worship. I am like, that's all you're going to find on my playlist. It's gospel music and inspirational and gracefully broken. Under whatever you're going through, it's God gracefully breaking you. It's putting you through the process to get you where he wants you to be. So that's because it's going to happen. It's going to happen almost every other day. There's going to be something, because that's the enemy's job. He's thinking of something. Oh, that didn't work. Think of what I can do. And you got to be right ahead of him. Like, listen, keep trying, because you're not going to win. And that's what it means to me.
Well, I thank you. And I'm going to just kind of, and I did this last time. So don't think that I'm just going to chop up everything y'all say. But for me, I'm writing down and taking notes on things that y'all say that stick out to me. And you said perseverance means faith. And I think that perfectly puts it. And not even just because you got to have faith in God or whoever your higher calling is. So you got to have faith, period. But I think that from even what you were saying, and you were saying the song, being broken gracefully, you got to be able to have faith in yourself that you're gonna be able to make it through, you know. And I think that that right there really, that was good. And I think for you, for when you said that, I wrote that down, immediately wrote that down. And then for Shalonda, you said it's a journey, it's a continual journey. And I think a lot of times people feel like, all right, I've made it over that hump, I'm done, I've made it. But it's not always like that. And I took that from what you said. And Nefertari, well, I wrote down two things, but I circled pain is necessary. And with perseverance, you're going to feel some kind of pain, but pain is necessary, because could you imagine like everything being handed to you and it's just so easy, like you will never really appreciate it. So pain is necessary. I wrote that down and I circled that. And those are three things that stuck out from what you ladies said. So, you know, and I'm looking at the comments and people like, whoo, this is good. And say that again. And so they are really feeling what y'all are saying. But I have another question that follows up with that. And I want to know, when you have been faced with different obstacles or difficulties or failures or opposition, because I know that, you know, a lot of times people tend to forget that sometimes you have to persevere through opposition, and opposition can come in many forms. Like, you know, if you wanted to start this business and people are like, not that they won't support you, they may tell you, you really want to be an entrepreneur. And as women, and the statistics are out there, I am not a male basher by any means, but the statistics are out there that, you know, a lot of times men will be more supported faster in business than it will be women. But right now, women are actually starting and owning more businesses than men are. So with that being said, there has to be something there where it shows that women can be leaders and entrepreneurs, but the opposition of deciding to start your own business. And off the top of my head, charge it to my, you know, don't charge to my head and my heart. I think it was Nefertari that had the brick and mortar, or was it Paris? It was Paris that had the brick and mortar. Nefertari, it was you. So you decided to not only be an entrepreneur more than one time. So I think a lot of times people think perseverance is just like, you know, I became homeless and I had to persevere through that. No, it can be anything, failures, oppositions. It can be difficulties, like Shalonda had a difficult situation today. And I promise you, anybody else, because she says her favorite word is perseverance, but I promise you, anybody else that dealt with Shalonda dealt with today, she would have been like, just forget it. It's not for me, forget it. But it was something small. So my question is, when you found yourself being faced with whatever obstacle this was, what steps did you take to begin the process? Not what did you do to overcome it, but what is it? Okay, hey, Nefertari, Shalonda, Paris, here is your opposition. What's the first thing you do in that moment when you're like, all right, here we go, I'm being faced with something? What's the first thing that you do? When first thing that comes to your mind, what is it?
So initially, I panicked before I got comfortable with going to God. But once I got comfortable with, leaning on him and just really depending on him, not just depending on him like when I'm in a crisis, but just depending on him to just guide my whole entire life. Once I became comfortable in that, anytime I'm faced with an obstacle or something that I'm just like, this is out of my hands, I breathe deep. I'd be like, God, look, this is you. Like, help me out here because I'm nervous. You said you don't lie. You said that you would help me. Like, I need you to step in. And then from that moment, it would be like a sensation of like peace. And once I get that sensation of peace, I have to remind myself, like, you're good. Stop worrying about that. That's already taken care of. You ever been in a situation where literally you saw it being taken care of and then you had this like, this is relief? In this situation, you can't physically see him. So if you don't know him, you don't know that, like, you can't really understand, like, how is he taking care of it? He don't know me like we. But once you get that relationship with him, once you start relying on him for every single thing, it could be little stuff. I rely on God when I go look for an outfit. I be like, God, look, I ain't got all day for this. I need to be cute. You need to direct me and I need to get up out of here. And I promise you, he always come through. So when I panic, like I said before, I would look to like, I would panic, but now I'm just like, God, look, come on in the room now.
Absolutely. I love it. Panic. God comes, you go with God, give it to him, peace. I love it. Because and I commend you for that. Because sometimes I think we try to have this persona up of that. All right, I got an opposition and all right, let's move forward. I like the fact that you actually was like, no, I panic. And that's being transparent and that's being real. Because when we have followers and people that look up to us, we sometimes tend to say, well, I don't want them to know that I have moments where I'm questioning or I'm doubting or I feel inadequate. But I really commend you for saying, I panic. I do. So panic, God, peace. I love it.
Yep.
All right. So Paris, what about you?
I'm a crybaby. I'm a cry. I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna get it out. I will cry. Okay. I will be and then I will cry and then I start praying. I put my music on. I'll be look, Google, play me some inspiration. I really feel like worship has been, even though worship is more for God, it be for me too. Because some of them songs, it reminds you like, okay, he not gonna leave me for a second. Just the other day when I was doing our presentation for Women That Win, a song came on and it said God's hand is on your life. So even though worship is for God, it also is for us to remind us like, okay, whatever storm we're going through, he is there. He is in the midst of every storm. Everything we're going through, I realize my brother always tell me, like, always know that God is not, he ain't letting you go. So if you know that he's not letting you go, it gives you that sense of, like Nev said, that sense of peace comes in. Because if I know God got me, even though it's, and I'm crying and I don't know how I'm gonna get through it, you get that relief because you know God's hand is there. And then I'm running the church too. Like church, I'm going to the altar. Because when they be like altar call, I mean, that's just me. That I found my peace. That's how I get through the situations. I mean, I'm gonna cry, but then I'm gonna start and I'm gonna put on some music. I'm gonna try to shift my mood and I'm gonna try, and that's just how I try to do it. Sometimes it don't be as easy as said as done, you know, even though sometimes after I listen to it, I still feel sad. I feel anxiety. I suffer from anxiety. And sometimes it be like, oh, like it really sometimes when things is happening, my anxiety just flares up. I can't sleep at night. I'm worried about things. And then I have to remind myself, God's hand is there, Paris. He ain't letting you go. He got you. And that's how I handle it.
And I love it because I'm a crybaby myself. So just be prepared that for Women That Win, I might be on the stage shedding a couple tears, but I'm a crybaby too, you know, and what I've been told and I realize is that's another form of release, whether you're happy, you're mad, or you're sad. And I had to come to grips, you know, because when I was younger, I was like, look, I'm gonna take my tear ducts out. So I'm not, so y'all won't see these tears crying, but hey, I mean, that's just us. But for you, I like that you said you cry, you pray, and you do whatever needs to be done to shift your mood. So I feel like yours is I release, cry, I pray, I go to God, just like Nefertari said. And then you said your mood shift. And so I think Nefertari has that moment where she finds the peace to be able to go through it. You take the mood shift because you got to be able to shift your mood so you can get ready to go through whatever you're going through. So I think that's great. And I love that, you know, through both of these, you all are going to God. So this tells me right now that you are not trying to fight this alone. And for those who don't call God, whoever your higher being is. And I have to always preference that because, you know, just because we're Christian, we believe in God, some people don't, but they can still resonate with what we're saying. But I believe in God. I'm going to go to God. So I see that in all of this. Nefertari panics. She goes to God. She finds her peace. She begins to go through it. You cry, you release, you pray, you shift your mood. So Shalonda, what do you do?
I do all of the above. I was like, oh, yep, I do that. Yep, I do that. But and Missionary, you already know I'm a crybaby. But like you said, crying is a release. So a lot of times people cry when they're mad, people cry when they're happy, people cry when they're sad, but that's okay. But what I want to say that often people forget to do is take a minute and breathe. Beyond faith, beyond praying, in that moment, you can't get to the church. You can't pray, you can't put on worship music, but in that moment, when everything is happening, in that moment where the situation is overwhelming you, in that moment, you have got to take a minute to stop and breathe. And it changes the entire environment. So a lot of what I share with people when I'm training, when I'm coaching and things, is things that I literally do myself. Paris says she suffers from anxiety. That's one of the things they tell us to do is to breathe. You have got to take a minute to breathe. And oftentimes we forget that when we're in the heat of whatever is going on, we're like, no, because I got to figure this out. I got to do this. I got to do that. And I'm guilty, Miss Shanae. No, I am like so guilty. And it's like, Shalonda, breathe. Just breathe. People think that perseverance has to be something so difficult, something so big, something so dramatic that you've had to learn how to do over years. No, we're constantly breathing already. But when you're doing it intentionally, you change your entire environment. Then you're able to focus. So I breathe, then I focus. Then I realize, what can I do now? What can I actually control or handle now? If it is something out of my control, I gotta put it to the back burner at this moment. But once you've breathed and you've gotten that focus, you can understand, okay, well, the next thing I need to do is I need to make this call. And I'm telling y'all, when I tell you I went through something today and I literally had to do this, beyond calling Miss Shanae. Oh my gosh. But I had to breathe. I had to figure out, okay, what is my next step? And then I had to do it. And then I realized, okay, I got that done. And then you move on to the next thing. So that's what I really want to encourage everyone to do. Everyone, it doesn't matter what you're dealing with, take a moment to breathe.
I like that you said that, because for me, that is something that I have had to work on because of either anxiety or worrying, because I'm the type of person where I got to be able to I want to be the one to control it so that I can fix it and make things happen. And so that's just part of my demeanor. And so what I noticed as well, because I'm not only am I a big advocate of women empowerment and motivation, I'm a huge advocate of counseling, because there have been things that I have went through in my life. And I promise you, if I had not went to counseling, God knows, I mean, not even just the bad, like good, because people think counseling is just for bad things. It's not. And so there have been some amazing things that have happened in my life. And when I've been able to talk to my counselor, I've been telling them, she's been able to say, well, did you give yourself credit for it? Well, no, because I'm excited that it happened, but I can't even see certain things in there. So, but that's one of the things that she said, is that when we deal with anxiety, we hold our breaths because your body is tense. And so I love that you said breathe. So you breathe, then you focus, and then you say, what can I control now? So that's your first steps, which are huge. And I love it. So some people were dropping it in the comments. They said, panic, God, peace, and cry, pray. Somebody said, I feel the mood shift. So yes, breathe, focus, and then ask, what can I control now? So this takes me to my next question. So ladies, why did you decide? I want you to think about the question I'm about to ask you. I want you to think about the toughest thing that you have ever had to just the first thing off the top of your head that you ever had to persevere through. So keep that situation in your mind. The question I have for you is, why did you keep going when it got really tough, when it got really hard? Why did you keep going? And I know Nefertari, you were saying about, being broke, no, that was Paris. Sometimes it breaks you. When you felt that moment that you were just broken and it was just like, why did you keep going through the toughest thing that you feel like you have ever had to face and persevere through? Why did you keep going? And I'm gonna go backwards this time. We'll go Shalonda, then Paris, then Nefertari. Why, Shalonda? Why did you keep going?
Woo! Okay, here we go. I'm not gonna cry. Why did I keep going? The toughest thing that I ever had to go through. Why did I keep going? Because one, I made a promise. I made a promise to my oldest son that where we are right now, we will never see this again. And when you make a promise to your kids, you better believe if you don't know how you're going to make it work, you're going to figure something out. So I made a promise to my son that we will never see this moment ever again. And something in me pushed me to figure out what I needed to do to honor that promise, not only to him, but to myself. When you make a promise to your kids and even yourself, you deserve to let your word be your bond. You deserve to honor that word. You deserve to do whatever it takes to make it happen. Did we experience hard times again? Yes, but never like that. Did we go through hard times? Did I experience trials and tribulations again? Yes, I did, but never like that. Why? Because it's bigger than Shalonda. Everything that I experienced, everything that I had to go through, the hardest thing I can think in my mind that I've ever experienced in my life was never about Shalonda. It was about the young lady I met 5 years later. I don't even know her name, that I was able to help through a difficult situation. It was about that gentleman that I saved from committing suicide 10 years later. It was about that single mom that I was able to help get into her home with her kids. It was never about me. So when we realize that everything that we go through, even the hard times, even when it is our fault, because a lot of what we go through is a result of some of the decisions we have made. But when we realize it is not about us, we are able to go forward because it's bigger than us. So when you put in your mind and in your heart that it's not about me, you can make it through.
Look here, Shalonda. I said I was not gonna cry. But you're right. It's bigger. You said it's bigger than you. And things that we go through, sometimes we're just like, oh, but next thing you know, somebody comes up to you and you're able to say, I went through it. This is what I did. Now let me help you. But you said you made a promise to your son. So you're attaching it to something that's bigger than you and also your son. So that's wow. Look, I'm trying not to cry. I already know I'm gonna cry. I'm trying to look and see if I got my tissues behind me, but Somebody said a full wet napkin. Somebody said you speaking the truth, sis. Trials and tribulations came left and right back and front, but God. But somebody put something in here, Shalonda, that I'm trying to scroll back up and see it. And when you said it, when they said it, I was like, absolutely. Chastity, determination to be relieved. That's what helped you in the midst of the toughest time. Determination to be relieved. And I thought Chastity, when she put that, I was like, that perfectly summed it up. So, Paris, you gonna make me cry too? Look, I already.
You know what? I'm over here like that. You get me emotional before I even. So, when I lost my father, so there we go. I don't talk about it a lot because it's still, even though people think like it gets better with time, it don't. Sometimes it get worse, you know. And when I lost him, I slipped into a depression. In my mind, is you took the only parent who loved me correctly. You took my best friend. You took my support system. The only person I had in this world, you just took them away from me. You know, so I had to look at my kids. Even the day of my father's funeral, my son was so little at the time, but he wouldn't leave my side. Everybody kept trying to take him away from me, you know, but he didn't leave my side that day. He was so little, but I think he understood, like, I'm gonna get you through this, mommy. And everybody kept saying, well, go, and he will not leave. I swear he would just not leave my side. And I knew that moment is like, I gotta get through this for him and my daughter. And, you know, I knew that I had to be strong. Now it was like, I had nobody. You know, people don't understand when I say I don't have anybody, it's because to my people I have to look out for. I take care of my mother. I got to look out for my mother. They need me. I can't go to them for support. So when I lost my father, it was like, oh, I'm out here by myself. I don't have nobody. You know, I don't get help from my kid's father. So I really felt like it was just me. But because of that, it was something in one of them kids. Oh, I got up for them now, you know, because we don't have nobody to fall back on. If I don't make it happen, then they got out. So that's when I knew, like, okay, I gotta keep going for them. Even when I went through the depression and, you know, I didn't understand why. People that I used to go to the cemetery and lay on the ground and just cry like a baby. And I used to just completely ask God, like, why would you take this person from me? And I'm sorry. But I had
Don't
to understand.
apologize. Don't apologize. Release it. I promise you, there's somebody listening right now that is resonating with you. So don't apologize. Let it out, mama. Let it out.
Just because, like, me and my mother had the worst relationship. So I felt like you taking the one parent. And I had to really understand, like, everything happens for a reason, God. I know there's a reason behind this. But now I'm in a more peaceful place because God has provided me. He hasn't left us. Even and I was like, oh God, I gotta go back to work. I don't want to go back to work because if I go back to work, my kids can't even get to school. Like, I'm so serious. Like, if I go back to work, my kids won't even have a way to and from school. You know, I was in trouble with the principal because my son was days when I did have a job, and I'm trying to tell her, listen, lady, I don't have nobody to call. You know, if I gotta work or go, I don't know what you want me to do right now, right? So even now, when entrepreneurship get tough, it's like I to work. My kids will miss school. Like, what am I? So that's why I know I just got to keep going, and that's the work. And I know God didn't bring me here to leave me stranded. You know, I got to keep going, and I got to look at the basics and know that everything I do, like Shalonda say, it's about them kids. We make promises to them kids.
So,
And
so I know in your situation, and you were saying like you felt like you asked God, why did you take the only person, that parent that loved me the right way, and you got to keep going for the kids. This actually wasn't part of the question, but I want to ask this question to you, and I think Nefertari will also be able to. Actually, all three of y'all can. So I'm gonna say that question for later. We're gonna say that question for later because I just thought about it. All three of you ladies on here can actually answer this question. So I'll save that one. Let me write it down so I don't forget, because you said something to make me think about it. But for you, and I don't know, I hope I didn't cut you off. I think your internet froze. Were you done? I didn't want to cut you off. Okay. That just took your kids, because you had people that were depending on you, and you figured out, you went in your depression, and you had your son and your daughter, but they also were looking at you. And even though he couldn't comprehend, he knew mommy was hurting and he was there for you, but you also knew at that time you had to do it because they saw you. So even though he couldn't tell you anything, he saw you were hurting. And so since he saw you, you knew that they were looking and you had to keep it going. And again, the comments are going crazy. Somebody named LaJuan, is it LaJuan? Yeah, LaJuan said, I was a daddy's baby and I lost my dad in 2018. My personal consultant, one of my heroes. So that's why I said, don't apologize and hold back, because somebody on here is resonating with what you're saying. And, I really think that they resonated that. And somebody said, breakthroughs, queens, thank you for your transparency. They were saying they understand 100%, sending you hugs, and somebody said, you speaking to my life, so, and people are in here saying how they lost their father, Cece. Uhura, yes, Uhura actually just lost her father on Thanksgiving. So, Kimberly lost her father on Thanksgiving as well. So I'm actually glad that you opened up, and this right here is something that you're still currently persevering through, because this, like you said, it don't go away. Sometimes it gets hard and it's easy. And I am so glad that you did open up and had that release, because somebody on here is dealing with that right now. And I guarantee you, and I've never lost my parent, but I lost my aunt who was like a mom. And she was the one that was like, I love you. You didn't leave her presence without her telling you that she loved you. So I know what you're feeling is not a parent. So if I heard from my aunt, I can only imagine what it's like for a parent. So I am so glad that you were able to open up and cry, and also explain that, because I think people feel like when it comes to death, that when years go by, it's easy. And I love that you said it's not. Sometimes it may get worse. So, and I understand that, because for me, I do go back to my aunt's grave, and people think it's crazy, and I don't care. I'll sit there and have a whole conversation to her grave, like she's right there talking to me. So when you said that, it was like, you know what, I think that resonated with a lot of people, because people deal with the loss of their parents. And people who have never lost a parent don't understand that this is going to be an ongoing situation. But I don't even think it's just with parents, it's death in general. So your kids, your why, that's what made you realize that, and your kids saw you and they needed to see you be able to get through this, and that you can get through these tough times. So your kids, your why, and that they see you. Nefertari, what about you?
So with all these emotions going on, can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So in the toughest situation that you were faced, that you had to persevere through, why did you even, when it got so tough where you felt like, I don't think I can do this, what kept you going? Like, why did you decide to keep going through the toughest thing that you've ever had to go through?
Well, without getting into deep into the story of my toughest situation, in a nutshell, I lost my husband while I was pregnant. I had a 10-year-old kid at the time, and I was pregnant with my new son. At the time, I had a pretty strong support system as far as my family, my friends. And so when it happened, I had all these people that was constantly around me. But I still felt lonely. I still felt real lonely. And I ain't gonna lie, at first I didn't want to keep going. I remember going to a coffee shop. I remember I didn't want to keep going. I'm not gonna lie. I remember going to a coffee shop, Caribou Coffee, and just sitting there thinking, looking at people come in, they were happy, and I'm just like, I couldn't stomach it. I couldn't stomach it. And I remember thinking, like, I literally took my phone and I started Googling stuff. And I Googled, what would death feel like? And I was like, I Googled, what would, could I be reunited with my loved one? I was Googling that stuff, like trying to understand, like, am I gonna be feeling like this forever? And what made me keep going? Of course, my kids. Like, at the time I had one and I was pregnant with the other, but I ain't gonna lie, it was my support system. It was my support system that kind of helped me to keep going. Because by myself, I was like, I'm about to blow this joint. Like, I wasn't suicidal. Like, I don't think I would have enough balls to like kill myself, but I did not. I was like ready for God to hurry up, like, take me out of here. Like, however you gonna do it, go on and get it out the way. That's where I was at. And like I said, it was my support system that, and nobody knew this. Like, I believe it's my first time ever saying it, like, ever. And yeah, it was just the people around me, my kids.
And I thank you for opening up about that, because for me, I think that a lot of people don't like to say, when I'm going through hard times, I've even thought about that as well, but you still here. And I like that you looked it up, you thought about it, but you was like, you know what, I can't even do it. And I think that that's something that a lot of times people try to shy away from, because people don't like to say, yeah, man, like when this traumatic experience happened, I even questioned, why am I still here? And Nefertari, I'm glad you made the decision to stay with us, because look at all that you've been able to accomplish. Look at all the lives you've been able to impact. And so I'm glad you made that decision and realize that you, despite hell and high water, you're worthy of being here. And he chose you to stay here. So I commend you and I thank you for making the decision to choose yourself in your life. And I love that you said you had a support system. And even though you felt alone, the people were there for you. You still had a support system that allowed you to go through that. And so that right there just shows that even though we have people around us, sometimes having to persevere through these tough times, we still may feel alone, even though people have went through the same thing that we went through. Because when you mentioned that comment about having a support system, but still felt alone, you can see the heads nodding, and I get it, because in that moment, it's like, nobody understands what I'm going through. Nobody feels this pain that I'm feeling. Like, and then you're questioning, why the hell is this happening? Excuse me for cussing, but I'm pretty sure that's probably the easiest cuss word that came out at those times. And so, you're asking yourself these questions. And, I just wanted to, out here in front of everybody, say, I thank all three of you ladies, and not everybody that's listening, but of course you three, because you're on here tonight, for deciding to choose to have your kids, or realizing that these things are bigger than you, and appreciating that your support system is there, but also choosing yourself to continue to fight through and not allow it to break you, but make you stronger. And that just goes to show that sometimes we are faced with things in our lives that are like unimaginable, and we're making it through. And I love that you said that it doesn't always get easy. Sometimes it still is heavy. But the next question that I have for you, and this is the question that I said just kind of popped in here. I think a lot of times when we are faced with death that hits us, and that's why I said all three of you can kind of resonate with this. In your journey of persevering through death that has happened, and the reason why I said I wanted to ask it is because I know how hard death can hit and how it feels. It's heavy. It's confusing. It's like you just can't imagine it. And for people who are in your support system, when you had to persevere through those situations where you were faced with losing someone so close to you, what is something that you can tell people listening in that they could have done to help you through that? Because I know for me as the fixer, I'm going to be like, what do you need? What can I do for you? And I know that in that moment, it's like, I need you to get out of my face, because I don't know what it feels like to have lost a parent. So I'm trying to do everything, or your husband, I'm trying to do everything in my power to make it okay. And I want to make sure that you're okay. But on your journey of persevering, in those moments where the people are more so in your way than helping you, that slows your progress through persevering through this hard time. So is there one or two things that you can tell people, especially for people who are sitting here saying that they have lost people, and if there is something that you wish you could have said in that moment to the people who are trying to be your support system or being in your corner, if you could have just did this for me, that could have helped me out so much more. Like for me, when my husband lost his mom, he was like, stop asking me if I'm okay, because I'm not okay. And right now, I don't know when I'm going to be okay. So if you're going to check on me, please don't say, are you okay? And I was like, okay, but I'm just trying to make sure that you're okay. He was like, but I'm not going to be okay. So I had to stop saying, hey, babe, are you okay? So for him, and that may be the same thing for you. So those who are tuning in or who may share this later on, when you're dealing with people who have experienced death, of how close this is, what could we do to help you through your journey of persevering in that tough time? I'll go back. I'll start with you, Nefertari, and then we'll go to Paris and then Shalonda.
For me, the people was very overwhelming. So for me, I just needed space, like get it away from me. I just need to sit and think for a minute. I need to gather everything. I just thought I need to collect all my thoughts. And it was very hard to do because it was so distracting, because like the phone calls wouldn't stop. I remember when it first happened, I didn't even get on social media for like 2 weeks because the messages, they were just very overwhelming. I didn't want to deal with it. I didn't want to deal with the questions. I just didn't feel like it. And yeah, so for me, it was just like check on me, but like I need my space. Like let me think. Let me sort this out real quick.
Yep. Somebody in the comments said, yes, I hate that question. I guess when I said the ask was asking Rico. Yeah. And somebody put space. So I think that's what, space. So Paris, what about you?
My cousin did the best thing. He just came over. He didn't say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I mean, are you okay? He just was like, come on, put your clothes on. We're going to go get something to eat. We're going to go have a drink. And sometimes less words is best, because people will be like, I'm so sorry. And what can I do? And it's like, first pray for me, pray for my strength. And just do little things to try to just like, he came and got me. And he had, of course, at the time, he had a nice bottle of alcohol. Just, I'll be honest. And we went to eat, and it was just like, sometimes don't remind people of, sometimes we may not even be in that thought in that moment, and boom, you say something and it's like, you done took me back down this path. So sometimes just not, I mean, of course you show empathy, that, but sometimes just don't bring them back down the path all the time. Don't always mention it. Just sometimes grab them, be like, let's just go out to eat. Let's just go have a drink. And that just sometimes will tell a person, oh, they be here for me, without you having to be so verbal. And I'm sorry. So that helped me. That was one thing, because everybody is, I'm sorry. It's like, okay, like there's nothing you can do. Let me heal. But, just try to do little things. Like another one of my people, they just bought me flowers. It's like little small things you can just do to just let them know without having to always just, I'm sorry, or what can I do? Just try to do things that may cheer them up a little bit in the midst of that storm.
Yep. Thank you. Somebody put in the comment, space and being present, not saying anything. Yep. Shalonda.
So one of the things that I do when I'm actually the support for other people is I let them know that I'm here for them. One of the things that I always say is if you need to cry, scream, cuss, fight, whatever, I'm here for you. And literally be there. So when you get that call at 2 o'clock in the morning and your friend just want to cry or they just repeating what happened over and over again, you have to be in a position to being able to be there to support. So you got to be kind of careful with those things, but just honestly letting people know that you're there and being there for them. Not only do I do that for other people, but that helps for me. Just me knowing that you're there if I need it means the world to me. Another thing is when I went through one of the darkest times of my life, my best friend at the time literally, y'all, had to get me off the couch to take me to the bathroom to make me bathe. She literally had to cook food and put it in front of me and sit there and say, well, I'm just going to sit here. I'm not going to say nothing, but I'm just going to sit here until you eat. You know what I mean? So you have to know, the people that are closest to you or even the people that you care about, honestly, their love language and what it is that helps them feel the most supported, to be honest, because everybody grieves differently. There's different processes, different stages to grief. So there might be one moment where I do need space, and there might be one moment where I'm like, okay, I gotta go to work. I can't take all these bereavements. I have to work. I have to stay busy. You know what I mean? But just knowing that I do have that support when I need it and that I'm not alone. Even though I feel like I'm honestly not alone, just letting people know that you are there for them means the world.
Thank you. And somebody said that's a friend. What I want to do is we're going to shift gears here so it won't be so heavy. I wanted to read you all a quote, and I want you to tell me, what does this mean to you? And there's one more question after this, and we're done. Because I don't want to end on a heavy note. But I think that everything that we've talked about is something that we needs to be talked about. And I appreciate you all for even being open to be able to pour your heart out and be vulnerable. But the quote that I want to read, and I want you to tell me what it means to you, is it says, perseverance doesn't always mean winning and losing. Perseverance means showing up and rising up to the occasion and performing. And I think a lot of time perseverance, people are like, okay, well, I made it through. And since I made it through, I won this, or I was persevering and I lost this, or whatever. But I like that the quote says it means showing up and rising up to the occasion and performing. What does that quote mean to you, Shalonda? And then we'll go to Nefertari and then Paris.
I just typed in the comments, show up. Man, that is so heavy. Just being present in the moment. Just taking it 1 minute at a time, y'all. That's it. That's showing up. It's not like she said, it's not winning, it's not losing, it's not anything. It's just being present in the moment, having gratitude in the moment. Are you where you want to be at this time? You might not be, but having gratitude that you have this moment to do whatever it is that you need to do in that moment. So that to me means just showing up, taking each moment for what it is.
Thank you. Paris?
Just to keep going. That means that giving up is not an option. That means you got to keep going no matter what.
Yes.
How you feel, right? Like you just got to keep going. Just keep pedaling. You know what I'm saying? Don't get out. Just keep pedaling and keep going. No matter what's going on, you have to just keep going. Giving up shit is just not an option. Just keep going.
Thank you. Nefertari?
I mean, it's the same thing. Showing up, keep going. Just even like you said, even if it's not a win or lose situation, just showing up and being your best self that you can be. Sometimes it's not always like we have our best selves be different on a daily basis, right? So one day we may feel like $1,000,000, the next day we may feel like $100, but maybe that $100 was our best self for that day. So like you said, just showing up for the day as your best self. I know when I'm going through my womanly thing, like it's very hard for me to show up because I be in so much pain, right? But so I'm not like 100% as if, if I was, normal, but just showing up and being your best self despite of the situation at hand. Because there's always going to be a situation at hand and we got to take the good with the bad. So gratitude.
I love it. So if I can sum up what all you all said and put it in a sentence, it is showing up, having gratitude, keep going because quitting is not an option, and do it by trying to be your best self. And I love it. I love all of that. And I want to thank you all so much for coming on here. And like I said, being vulnerable, opening up. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up tonight. But before I do, is there one thing that you can end up when it comes to persevering that you want to say? It can be funny or you can just want to reiterate something. But is there one thing that you want to say before we wrap up about persevering, what it means to you, how to do it, whatever? Shalonda, Nefertari, then Paris.
3 words. You got this.
I don't have 3 words, but I do have a little short message. Perseverance is just something that I feel like you just need to adapt to. It's just going to be, that's something that you're going to have to do on a regular basis throughout your whole entire life. So accepting it and being gracious that God chose you to persevere through whatever the situation was. Because it's always it's for whatever you're going through, whatever challenge you're going through, the reward is just as big. So I like to keep that in mind. So you just keep that in mind whenever you're going through tough times. You got to remember that the reward is just as big or best or tough. But y'all get it, right?
Absolutely. Paris?
Well, listen, a little self-care through perseverance does not hurt, okay? Because you feel better, okay? A little self-care, a little wine, red or white, whichever you prefer. Because look, y'all see, but no, seriously, I had to crack. But seriously though, like little self-care, because I will get up and be like, I'm going to give me a massage today. I'm not dealing with this. And then you get up and you feel better. Or what? I'm going to Cooper's Hawk, pick up my free bottles today. So whatever, sometimes you just a little self-care, a little wine, sometimes vibe out. Sometimes that's what you got to do. So that's it.
I love it. And you got this. You got to adapt, accept, and be gracious. And you got to throw a little self-care in there. I love it. And I want to let you all know that everybody is in the comments saying they needed this was on time. Kimberly White said the harder the battle, the sweeter the victory. But I really want to highlight Isaiah, even though this is a Winning Women Wednesday call, and I'm so glad our men are on here supporting us. He actually said, I needed to hear this, I swear. So you all's story is resonating with everybody, and whether big or small. So Alexis Clark said, God knew I needed to be on this call. Thanks y'all for sharing. So, I thank y'all for sharing and being on here and opening up. And what Lawan said something that is amazing. And she said sisterhood sharing. And I thought that was very like we want to create this sisterhood. So I like that. So I'm going to wrap up the call. There are so many different things you can do to be able to persevere. I want to give you 3 things to remember, and it all encompasses what our beautiful women on here tonight said. But the first thing that I want you to always remember, that when you're going through anything that you need to be able to persevere through, whether big, small, whether somebody agrees with it, don't agree with it, they see it, they don't see it, or they feel like it's minute, whatever it is, you got to make sure, number one, that you got to make sure that the reason why you're going to persevere through this is worthy. Like these women came on here and they said their kids, their support system, it was bigger than them. So you got to make sure that whatever you have your mind set to be able to go through hell and high water or just a little trip, it is worth it. Because if you are attaching something to something that doesn't have any worth, or it can be easily gone, then you're not going to be able to persevere. You're going to find the next thing to go to and then quit or do whatever. It has to be worthy. The second thing I want you to remember is that you have to set your own pace. You have to set your own pace. And the reason why I feel this is so important is because when I went through my miscarriage, and even with my last daughter, we were trying to have another kid and it took forever. And I felt like, okay, well, God, I'm just never going to have another child. And the moment that I said, all right, that's it, I made my mind up, I'm just not meant to have any more kids. I thought I was going through a whole health scare. I thought I was about to come up out of this world. I thought it was my time. And I took pregnancy test after pregnancy test, and they're preparing for surgery, and boom, I got a positive, I'm pregnant. Through those times when I felt inadequate, or I felt like, I was going to lose my mom to lung cancer, I thought I was going to lose my dad to larynx cancer, all these different things that I felt like I was never going to be able to make it through. What I realized and what I learned is that I had to set my own pace to get through those hard times. And I had to also set my own pace of healing when I had to persevere through something that I had to heal from. Because through that miscarriage, people are always so quick to rush you through, when is your next child? Or, all right, cool. Y'all, when I tell you every year I post up about my rainbow baby, well, every year on their birthdays, I post up about my rainbow babies. But when I post up about my child that I lost, I literally had somebody in my inbox for 3 years straight saying, why do you do this? This doesn't make sense. You need to praise your kids that are here. And I basically responded to her and I said, well, first of all, if you never lost a child, that is hella disrespectful. Second of all, if I want to post about my child that God blessed me with and decided to go home early to let me know that I can't have kids because they told me I was never going to be able to have kids, then I'm going to honor my baby. And thirdly, there are people that message me every year that is like, thank you for posting this up, or whatever the case may be, because it's more than just me. I felt at one time that my voice was not worthy enough for people to listen to because of what I went through. And when I finally said it, people came to me and was like, thank you. Just like on this call tonight, they're saying thank you. So set your pace. And it is okay to have moments where you can run. And there's moments where you got to stop, take a breath, take a pause, do some self-care, get a red wine, white wine, take a beer, whatever it is, go drink you some water, get a Red Bull. I don't care. Take that moment, set your own pace, because if Nefertari can get through it faster than Shalonda can, that does not mean that Shalonda is any less. If Paris can sit here and say, all right, I'm having relapses, but I can get over it faster, and Nefertari is like, well, I don't have relapses, that doesn't mean one is better than the other. Set your own pace, okay? And I think a lot of times people try to get through things too fast. So set your own pace. And the third thing I want you to always do is you got to keep going. Even if in your head, I'm going in my head, you may not be moving in your feet, you may be laying in your bed, but you could be thinking of things, all right, okay, this is what I'm going to do to make it through. In your mind, you're moving, okay? And then you can put actions behind it, but you got to make sure you keep going, even if it's just you formulating things in your mind, even if it's just you saying, I'm taking a break. When I come back, this is what I'm going to do. But you got to be able to make it up in your mind and also through your actions that you're going to keep going. And the fourth thing that I want to do is I want you to always tell yourself, and even if you can't do it in your time where you're persevering, and whether it's tough or not tough, you got to also remind yourselves, and these ladies also said it here, that you are worthy of being able to get through whatever it is, because God got you. And if you can't remind yourself in that moment that you are worthy, you got to find your support system, your accountability partner, your environment, whoever it is, to be able to remind you that you are worthy. Okay. Those are my 4 tips to be able to persevere. I want to thank you 3 ladies so much again for coming on here. I look forward. I mean, y'all, if what y'all heard tonight is just a little smidget of what you about to get at Women That Win, I hope y'all ready. Look, I might need to pack this box of tissues with me, but I am ready. Y'all are on fire. And I thank you again for choosing yourselves. And I thank you for coming on here and sharing with us. Before I go, I forgot this, y'all. Is there anybody got any questions? Because I said y'all can ask questions. Anybody got questions? So type fast. I'm gonna give y'all a few. I'm gonna give y'all really, really quick. Does anybody have any questions to ask these beautiful women about perseverance? No questions. I'm not on Facebook, y'all. So if you're on Facebook, ask some questions. I'm sorry I can't see it. Somebody said Chicago ready. All right. So I don't see any questions. So I thank you so very much again, ladies. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your night and look out for next Wednesday because we got another great topic for you. Good night, everybody. Thanks, ladies. See you in a week.
Good night, everyone. Blessings.